Well, welcome to another episode of Coronacation. I'm Naomi White in Brisbane, Australia, and I am today joined by Shantelle Thompson in Melbourne. How are you, Shantelle?
Hi, Naomi. I'm well, thank you. Thank you for having me. And I would like to begin by acknowledging and paying my respects to the traditional custodians of the land that I'm sitting on right now, and pay my respects to elders, both past and present, and extend that to First Nations people across the country and around the world that may be listening to this, and acknowledge everyone that is listening and say thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. Thank you so much. Shantelle, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Shantelle Thompson. I'm a proud Barkinji Warrior European woman of descent. And what that means is that on my mum's side, I have relations and ancestral ties to 3 Indigenous communities from northwestern New South Wales. And through my father's family, I have the usual European mix of the Irish, Scottish, English. There's a bit of Chinese and Sri Lankan thrown in there.
Oh, goodness.
I'm a mum of 3 children, and I am a 3-time world champion in Brazilian Jiu Jitsu, a sport that I started through as a form of physical therapy to treat severe postnatal depression and suicidal ideation. And from those experiences, I now combine my lived, learned and earned experiences, as I call it, to share my story with people, to challenge perceptions around stereotypes and what people are capable of and what it means to overcome adversity. And I also run trauma-informed self-development workshops with many different groups. So as I say to people in business, I don't have a niche market, I have a niche message, which is very much about the warrior within, being and leading from the heart, living courageously and daring greatly, because I think in the times that we're in right now, being and leading, but also serving from the heart is more important than ever.
Couldn't agree with you more. So COVID and the times we're in right now, how is this affecting you?
At the beginning, I was set to have my best year yet. Like pre-COVID, as I think a lot of us are going to be referring to the times. I'm a sole trader, I'm a speaker, and I offer services and I mentor as well. I was set to have my biggest year, like I was set to scale and take things to the next level. And I was also on track to get my black belt and pursue my dream of being a black belt world champion. And then COVID hit, and pretty much my whole entire business got shut down for the foreseeable future. Jiu-jitsu and training, being a combat sport, definitely got put on hold. So, and now obviously with what's happening in the world, the movement behind Black Lives Matters, but also the triggering and traumatic response we've now, and the conversations we're now having in Australia around Aboriginal Lives Matter, and I guess the challenges that we have sitting in those. And then last week was also National Reconciliation Week. So it's been a difficult couple of months.
So how has it been difficult for you? You know, what feelings has this evoked for you around what's going on in the world?
Look, COVID was an interesting event to happen, because I think for a lot of First Nations people, our perspective was that this was Mother Earth, this was our Creator telling us that what we're doing is no longer working, and we've tried to give you the signs, no one's listening, so we're going to force you to stop and sit still, and hopefully through self-reflection, we can start to create a new way of being and doing in the world. And that was exactly what that time has been for me. It's about sitting still and going, okay, well, what are my options? What's in front of me? But also, as an Aboriginal woman, we're taught through cultural practice, but also history, that we have a personal responsibility, not just to ourselves, but to honour the work of our ancestors, but also to acknowledge that the work that we do now in our lifetime affects the generations that are yet to come. And then to see what has happened with George Floyd, but there are names in Australia that a lot of people don't know. Anitanya Day, Young Walker, a man from the Northern Territory who was shot dead in his own community. And they're just one of 430 names, not statistics, not a number, of people who have been killed in police custody in Australia and never one conviction. And to see our national leaders, I mean, Scott Morrison was said on national TV, I don't know why people are making this an Australian issue, because we don't have that that problem here in Australia. We don't have those race relations. The problem is that what is happening in the world now is it's the tipping point. It's because the world has been built on oppression, capitalism, consumerism, and people are tired. And yes, people rioting and looting is not the answer, but I can also understand how it's led to this. And to be completely honest, Naomi, like, my spirit is heavy. I feel broken. It's very difficult to understand how to get up and try and be productive, to focus on how to be progressing and growing and performing when people are dying in the world because of their skin color. And then we as First Nations people, and I have white skin, so I've got to double justify myself. I've got to justify myself as, how can you be black or a person of color or a First Nations woman? And then I've also we were having this conversation at the kitchen table, and I think for me personally, as a person, as a woman, and as a person who's trying to create change in the world, we were having this conversation, we were watching the news, and my 3 kids are sitting there. I've got 2 daughters and a son, and my son is the only one with dark skin. He has very tan skin, like his dad's Pacific Islander. And I'm having these conversations, and my 10-year-old son starts to cry. He's like, it scares me, Mum. Like, what does that mean for me? He goes, I thought this stuff only happened in the past, not now. He goes, does that mean that I could go to jail, or someone could want to hurt me who's supposed to help me? And I think, and he goes, and what are we supposed to do? And I think that's the problem, is that the onus has always been put on the minority to convince the majority that things need to change.
How did you respond to your son in that moment?
Look, I had to take him away from the conversation, and I just had to hug him and say, son, I don't know what this means. I'm not going to lie to you. This is what this is about. I said, it's about COVID has just been a tipping point for these things to bubble up. I said, but the reality is that, yes, that could be you. Now, he's only 10. I could lie to him and put bubble wrap around him, but I refused to do that. And how I guess counteracted that or balanced that out was to go, I'm your mum. I will do everything I can to give you the skills, the education, and the opportunities to do better in your life, and to be the best person that you can. But also, within everything that I have that is in my being, I will do everything. So I work on 2 paradigms. I build up the individual to try and do the best that they can in their life. I don't try and tell you what to do. I try and work with people on how to do that. I use my story as a vehicle to prove that it's possible, because I believe that's very important in this day and age, to be able to, especially people who are suppressed or oppressed by systems or their own narrative, to show that what I'm talking to you about is possible, because I've done that myself with my own story. But then I'm going to influence, I'm going to break down, I'm going to challenge, I'm going to crack open the systems and the social structures that are going to be the thing that will undo that person's potential. And I just hugged him and told him he was loved.
Yeah, it's a tough question as a mother to deal with when you don't know the answer. So what advice have you got for others, either in Australia or around the world, that might be helpful for them?
Wake up. And don't try and run from this. I know that it's hard and it's heavy, but that's the privilege of having white skin, is that we can turn this off. Even myself, I could take off my jumper. I could completely rebrand and just go with my European heritage and go with the privilege that being white does. And I wouldn't be a target. I'd probably be a lot further ahead in my career and my business if I didn't so strongly identify and stand with my culture and the movements that I do. But if you are in a position of privilege, or you have the capacity, you have a responsibility to at least have an overview and an understanding of what is happening, and the fact that this is not an American thing, this isn't an Australian thing, this is a humanity thing. I mean, I'm a part of a group of women of color, a support group, and it absolutely broke my heart. And I went to sleep. I didn't even sleep very well, reading about what happens to women in Africa. Like, an 8-year-old girl was gang raped. Like, this isn't something, like, this is a world thing. This is a humanity thing. And Black people, people of color, First Nations people are dying because of the color of their skin, because the systems that were built are not here to serve us. They're not built to give us a seat at the table, and we're consistently having to justify ourselves. But because of the systems and the viewpoints that are put forward, that leads to an individual. And racism is so much deeper than just hatred or skin color. It's so much more insidious than that. And what I could suggest to people is go and watch The Final Quarter, the documentary about what happened with Adam Goodes. Go and watch The Australian Dream, because if you don't believe in racism, go and watch that and tell me afterwards that you still don't think we have an issue across the world that needs to be dealt with. And what, if not now, when? When is it going to be enough that people are being killed and a police officer knelt on another person's neck? And this isn't just happening in America. We have video footage, but the fact that this only came about because we have video footage. Nothing would have come up, nothing would have been done if this was just anecdotal or people's personal accounts. There was a woman in America who, Amy Cooper, who said to an African-American man, I'm going to call the police and tell them I'm being attacked by an African-American man, because she was asked to put her dog on a leash. That type of attitude leads to people being killed. And until we have people being convicted and charged and being made to be held accountable for that. But also I can say to people is go and read, go and educate yourself. Don't go to the people of color and expect them to educate yourself. You have an opportunity to, don't be complicit, because if you choose to not take a stance, then you're choosing by omission to do nothing.
Yeah, and I think it's gone on long enough. It's time for change. So Shantelle, thank you so much for your time today. I'd love to talk to you longer. Perhaps that's another opportunity, but thank you so much, and I wish you all the best during this period.
No, thank you. And I send all of my love and my energy to people that are feeling heavy or challenged by this, through your our shared humanity. And it has been a challenging time, but I also hold out hope that we can do something.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Shantelle. Have a great day.
Thank you.